It's high, high, hey, the army's on its way. Count off the pages loud and strong. For wherever we go, you will always know that the army goes rolling along. First to fight for the right and to build the nation's might, and the army goes rolling along. Proud of all we have done, fighting till the battle's won, and the army goes rolling along. And it's high, high, hey, the army's on its way. Count off the days on its run. For wherever we go, you will always know that the army goes rolling along.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you all for being here and joining the first cabinet meeting of 2019. It's going to be a very exciting year. I think it's going to be a very good year. Some people think it'll be controversial and tough, and it probably will, but we're going to get a lot done. I think we can work with the Democrats actually and get quite a bit done. And we're looking at infrastructure. We're looking at many things that can happen. I think that both sides want. We just did a very big and very highly touted criminal justice reform bill, and that's a very bipartisan thing, and we finish off the year with that. We had a tremendous year in terms of achievement, whether it's regulation cuts or tax cuts or anything else you can name. So many things we did, judges, including 2 Supreme Court judges, and many federal bench judges. So we've had quite a time, and we're going to have, I think, 6 more years of great success, but I think this coming year is going to be tremendous, actually. Every day, Border Patrol encounters roughly 2,000 illegal immigrants. I have to talk about this. Trying to enter our country, 2,000 a day, and that's a minimum. Every week, 300 Americans are killed by heroin, the vast majority of which comes across through our southern border. Our southern border is like a sieve. It just pours through our southern border. And unless we're going to have physical barriers, it's never going to be able to be stopped. Too much money is being made. Last month, 20,000 minors were illegally smuggled into the United States. In the last 2 years, ICE officers arrested 235,000 criminals who were able to come in over the years through the United States. And we have a very tough border. I think you see that even last night, where people charged the border, tried to get through, but they couldn't because we have a wall up. And but tear gas was flying, and a lot of things were happening. And I guess for the most part, you've seen it. It's very sad. If they knew they had a physical barrier, if they knew they had a wall, if they knew they had something that's going to stop them, they would have never come up in the first place. When you see children getting sick, they get sick on the trail up. Very sick. It's a terrible journey. It's a horrible journey. You read the things that go on in those caravans. And if they knew they couldn't get through, they wouldn't even start. Another one's forming in Honduras. And we've very much lowered the payments to Honduras and to a few other countries that are not playing right, because there's no reason for caravans to be forming. They shouldn't allow it to happen. The United States needs a physical barrier, needs a wall to stop illegal immigration and to halt deadly inflow of drugs and crime. You have human traffickers. It's a thing that's horrible. Think of it, human trafficking. They kidnap people, they steal people, and they sell people. And because of the internet, one of the bad things that happens with the internet, one of the many bad things, but because of the internet, it's the highest it's ever been in history. And this is a world problem. This isn't a United States situation. This is a world problem. But the southern border is a very, very highly used place by people that do human trafficking. How could it get worse than that? There's a reason why politicians and wealthy people build walls around their houses and their compounds. President Obama recently built a wall around his compound. There's a reason for it, and I don't blame him. We're in a shutdown because Democrats refuse to fund the border security. They try and make it like it's just about the wall, and it is about the wall. I said over the weekend to a number of people that, the wheel, the wall, there are some things that never get old. It's never going to change. The wall is your number one point of security. If we had a wall, and we will, and by the way, for those that don't know, we don't want to talk about it all the time, but we've done tremendous amounts of renovation of existing walls and fences and brought them back into brand new condition. We've spent a lot of money on it, doing it properly. So we have a lot of brand new fencing. If you saw last night, they tried to come through a wall area. The wall existed. If it didn't exist, you would have had hundreds of people just flowing into our country. Some of these are criminals. Some of these will split up families by killing people and hurting people very badly. But if we didn't have a form of barrier up last night, you would have had a lot of people, all those people would have been able to come through. We're in the shutdown because of the fact that the Democrats are looking to 2020. They think they're not going to win the election. I guess a lot of signs point to the fact that they're not going to win the election. I hope they're not going to win the election. But they view this as an election point for them. I actually think it's bad politics, but I'm not thinking about the politics. I'm thinking about what's right and what's wrong. And we need a physical barrier. Everything else is bells and whistles. I know more about drones than anybody. I know about every...
All right, folks. Welcome. My name is Jen. I'm from Golden State Times. I'm the host of the stream, and the president is set to arrive in Texas in just a few minutes, folks. We're setting up the cameras like you guys see on top. It says camera being set up, where the president is going to have a roundtable on border security, on immigration, and on the government shutdown. The president is going to be at the border in Texas, where he is going to make his speech and hopefully pressure the Democrats into finally opening up the government. Right now, there's a bunch of protests and stuff, most likely, I'm not going to say it is, but most likely being pushed by the Democrats, being paid by the Democrats. So we have air traffic control protesting. We have government workers in Dallas, Texas protesting. So we do have, you're starting to see a little bit of the Democrats using their resources to what they think will pressure President Trump to cave. But the president has said many times before, earlier today at a press briefing while departing to Texas, that he is not giving up. He is not going to negotiate. He is not going to open up the government without border security, without the funding for the wall barrier. So the president is he's standing very firm on what he believes in and what he's going to do. So the president is set to deliver a speech at a roundtable on border security at the border with Mexico in Texas. So make sure you guys please share this live stream on social media, on Facebook, on Twitter, on Gab, on Reddit, on any of those social media sites. If you guys share it on Facebook or Twitter, I'll give you guys a quick shout out as a thank you. If you guys are new to the community, this is what we cover, folks. We cover politics, we cover the president, State Department, Pentagon, everything and everything in between. So make sure you guys subscribe and click the notification bell. Also, if you guys want to get notified directly by me whenever we have a live stream like this, all you have to do is send me a text with America First to 555-888. And then you'll get notified directly by me instead of YouTube when we go for a very important speech of the president, Trump rally, anything else like that. So yeah, folks, thank you very much for tuning in and choosing Golden State Times as your stream of choice. It should start very soon. I'll see you guys on the chat.
That you can have. And it's all good, but it's just very minor compared to the power of a wall. All of the people you see coming up, if they knew we actually had a physical presence there, a physical barrier, even when you have the soldiers who have been fantastic, we've had our military. But when you have the military, you have Border Patrol, you have ICE. It doesn't, I mean, it's great to have, but you have 2,000 miles. You have anywhere from 500 to 600 miles where you need the barrier. Some of it we've now completed, as you have seen and as I've told you. But we need barrier because you can't put a soldier every 100 yards. If you had a lot of people, you're going to put them every 100 yards. People are going to go right through. There's nothing you can do about it unless you're willing to build a wall. And walls work. If you look at Israel, I was with Prime Minister Netanyahu, and he threw up his hands. He said, I don't understand why they fight you in a wall. In Israel, as you know, they built a wall. He said 99.9% it works. And it would with us too. It would work almost 100% of the time and would have much less of a problem. And we'd save money, so much money, on a monthly basis. Probably would pay for itself in a month or two because we lose pretty close to $250 billion on illegal immigration. And I would say that it could be on a monthly or a couple of months, it would pay for the wall, pay for what we're talking about. The House, as you know, approved $5.6 billion. And that's a very small price to pay for total security on the southern border. The drugs alone that nobody can even calculate, it's such a big number. The money you'd save just on drugs and helping families where all of this horrible stuff doesn't come through on the southern border, right there you'd save, and you'd save a lot. The new Pelosi bill, and by the way, we're having, I guess they call them the Big Eight, so the Big Eight plus me are meeting in a little while. I think it was going to be 3 o'clock to discuss the border. We have ICE and we have Border Patrol. They're going to make a plea for the wall. They need the wall. They can't do it without the wall. All they can do is add many, many more men and women, but the protection isn't good because you're going to go to a certain area, you don't have the wall, they're going to walk right through. Like the killing that took place a few days ago, the young police officer, great young, beautiful person, great family, just took a picture with his son and his wife for Christmas, and a few hours later he was shot and killed by somebody that just came across the border. Things like that wouldn't happen, or certainly they'd be happening far, far less. Now the Democrats in the bill want $12 billion additional for foreign aid. They want $12 billion more. It's $54.4 billion, which is by itself a lot. But in foreign aid, they want $12 billion over the $54 billion. Think of it. We give $54 billion, a lot of it because they want to give it. They don't even know who they're giving it to. In many cases, people don't even know the name of the country. They know nothing about the country. And yet, so they're going to give $54.4 billion in foreign aid, but they want $12 billion more than that in foreign aid, but they won't approve $5.6 billion for a wall that's going to pay for itself almost on a monthly basis. It's just politics, folks. It's purely politics. So we have a lot of loopholes, whether it's catch and release, the world's most ridiculous loophole. You catch somebody and then you release them. Now what we're doing is we're catching and retaining. The problem is we have to build vast fields of rooms and places for these people to stay that we're catching, and it's physically not possible, nor is it possible even cost-wise. But we're catching and retaining. You have the lottery system, the visa lottery system, where we bring people into our country based on a lottery. We want to end all of this nonsense, the visa lottery system, so they pick them out of a jar. We want to pick people to come into our country on the basis of merit and talent, so that all of the companies that are moving in, we have large numbers of companies, many, many companies, more than we've seen in many years. The companies that have left our country are coming back because of what's going on. You see, our job numbers are great. We need people to come in, but we can't have these loopholes. These loopholes are crazy. One thing I have to say, DACA. We are all for DACA. The Republicans are for doing something with DACA, but it's been so misreported. We had the confines of a deal, and the $25 billion didn't just cover a wall. It covered a lot of border security. We have a lot of that. It's been covered very incorrectly, but it's confusing to a lot of people. But we were close to having a DACA deal, and then we had a judge rule from the Ninth Circuit, amazing ruling, and he said DACA was okay, even though when President Obama signed it, he essentially said, well, probably can't sign this, probably not legal, but I'm going to sign it anyway. And so everybody thought that it was going to be easily overturned by the judge, and the judge amazingly ruled in favor of that signing, even though President Obama didn't think it was going to hold up as he signed it. He said it. Go back and check. And then you had it upheld in the Ninth Circuit on appeal, and now it's going to the Supreme Court of the United States. We had a deal pretty close to being done, and a lot of people say I backed away from that deal. I didn't back away. The minute the judge overruled the case and they allowed DACA, they didn't talk to us about, and I don't blame them, they didn't answer the calls. They said, well, we're not going to prove that. We won the case. Why should we make a deal with DACA? I think it's going to be overturned in the United States Supreme Court, and I think it's going to be overwhelmingly overturned. I mean, nobody thinks that should have happened. We think it was a fluke, and it was a disgraceful situation that a judge ruled the way the judge ruled. But we think it's going to be overturned. It's now going, as you probably heard 2 weeks ago, it's now going. It will be in the United States Supreme Court. So if we win that case, and I say this for all to hear, we'll be easily able to make a deal on DACA and the wall as a combination. But until we win that case, they don't want to really talk about DACA, although they should, because there are those that don't want to allow DACA. I happen to think that we can do something with DACA. Mike agrees, other people agree, some people don't. So I think they're foolish if they don't want to make a deal with DACA, because if we get overridden, that means everybody that's been here has to leave the country. So there are a lot of things going on. We're very proud of what we've done with respect to the wall and the renovation that we've done. It's covered a lot of territory, tremendous amount of miles, and that continues to go on. But we need the wall for the security of our country. People want to see it. It's about border security.
All right, folks, thank you very much for joining us and choosing us as your stream of choice. We're just pausing this for a second just to say thank you to Russ Ayers for sharing the live stream on social media. As of right now, I think he's the only person, but I'm just making sure that that I say thank you to others that are sharing the live stream. Oh, here we go. We got Troy. Thank you so much, Troy, for sharing the live stream. And also Thomas. Thank you so much, Thomas. And Vanessa. We also have Yolanda. Thank you so much. Jacob Cruz. Thank you so much for sharing the live stream on social media. If you guys share the live stream on Facebook or Twitter, then I'll give you guys a quick shout out as a thank you for sharing the live stream. I Stand With Flynn. Thank you so much for sharing the live stream. Time's Out. Thank you so much for sharing the live stream. And we also have Paul Powers. Thank you so much for sharing the live stream on social media. Again, folks, if you guys share the live stream on Facebook or Twitter, I'll give you guys a quick shout out as a thank you for supporting us and for, helping us out. Sharing this live stream helps out so much. Thank you so much to Sugar for sharing the live stream, and Magic Fox 645, where I'm still trying to see if there's any more Patriots that are sharing the live stream, and giving them a thank you for their support. We also have Grimmy. Thank you so much, Grimmy, for sharing the live stream. All right, folks, I'll give you guys more shout outs in just a little bit.
And I think in the end, we're going to be successful. We are doing so much work right now. You see it going up. It's going up all over. That's the money that we were given. I want to thank the military, because the military has been fantastic. We've been working with Pat Shanahan who is acting Secretary of Defense, has been such a pleasure to work for and I work with. We worked really hard over the last, actually 4 or 5 weeks, and so much has been done, not only in terms of protection, but in terms of helping us with respect to areas that we need help for physical barriers. The military has been really great. The Army Corps of Engineers has been fantastic. And so with that, I think what I'll do is I'll ask Pat to say a few words, and then I'm going to ask Matt and Kirsten to say a couple of words. Maybe I'll start with Pat Shanahan.
Yeah,
Pat?
thank you, sir, and Happy New Year, everyone. Maybe just 3 points to share with all of you. First is we've been very, very closely coupled with Kirsten, Custom Border Patrol. I was speaking with General O'Shaughnessy, the commander at NORTHCOM, sends his best. The team is executing operational training every day. The collaboration has been seamless. Kirsten, as you know, and she's off here to our right, the National Guard has been in support, and the active duty. Maybe a shout out. Manny Padilla, Kirsten, has done an exceptional job. When I was talking to General O'Shaughnessy, he said Pete Flores and Kevin McAleenan. We've just had exceptional interaction. The second is, and you highlighted it, restoration of the fences, building out of additional mileage for the wall. The Army Corps of Engineers is dialed in on doing this cost effectively, quickly, and with the right amount of urgency as to where we can build additional stand-up walls quickly and then get after the threat. The threat is real. The risks are real. We need to control our borders. And maybe the third piece I would share with you is that we're doing additional planning to strengthen the support that we're providing to Kirsten and her team.
Well, your people have been fantastic, and you've headed it up, and I have to say they really have done a great job. And again, we want to finish it, we want to complete it, because you can't have a partial wall, because people come through the area that's not built. But the areas that are built, nobody's getting through. You can't get through unless you're a world-class pole vaulter in the Olympic team. It's very hard to get through. Very few people are able to get through. And you have done really, in particular, you have done a fantastic job. And while we're on you, as you know, I just got back from Iraq. We had a fantastic meeting with the generals and the Syria situation. I mean, I'm the only person in the history of our country that could really decimate ISIS, say we're bringing the troops back home over a period of time. I never said so quickly, but over a period of time. But everybody gives me credit for decimating ISIS. So we do that, and we say we're going to bring the troops back home where they belong. I've been campaigning on that for a long time. Before I won a big part of my campaign, I want to bring our troops back from the endless wars. We have endless wars. They're going on for 19 years in the area. But I'm going to bring them home from Syria. So I'm the only one that can do that and get bad publicity. They say, he's bringing them home. Because let me tell you, when I took over Syria, they were supposed to be there for 3 to 4 months, Pat, and they ended up being there for 5 years. So that's a little bit different than you thought, but they were supposed to be there for a short period of time. They've been there for a long time, and we have done a real job, but we are continuing to fight. We never let anybody down, and there was a lot of misinterpretation, but I think you'll see at the end that's working out. We're bringing our troops back home, and we're doing things that are very exciting, that I can't talk about, that I don't want to talk about. They're very exciting. A lot of great people understood it. Lindsey Graham understood it. Some others understood it. But what we're doing is the right thing to do. And in many respects, it's very exciting because I like winning. When I took over Syria, Syria was a mess. It was riddled. I think you could say this better than anybody. It was riddled with ISIS. And now everybody says it's down to 1% of the land. And sometimes you could even say less. 1%. The place was a mess. It was terrible. But we also have to have other countries fighting ISIS. You know, we're helping by doing this. People say Russia and Iran, we're helping them. Everything we do over there helps them. They don't like seeing us leave because we're knocking out ISIS. Let them fight ISIS too. We're spending all of this money. I want to spend money in our country. But we've had a tremendous success in Syria. We're slowly bringing people back and bringing them back, and we're hitting the hell out of them, the ISIS people. And we are doing something that, frankly, if I would have told you 2 years ago when we first came into office that we would have had that kind of a success, nobody would have believed it. They would have said you're exaggerating. It's not possible. But we're down to final blows, and those generals were fantastic. When we met with the generals in Iraq, they were really fantastic. They really know their business. So we have a lot of exciting things to talk about militarily. We've had a lot of victories. I just got a great letter from Kim Jong-un, and those few people that I've shown this letter to, they've never written letters like that. This letter is a great letter. We've made a lot of progress with North Korea and Kim Jong-un. Chairman Kim has been, we've really established a very good relationship. A lot of good things are happening. I never said speed. Look, it's been this way for 80 plus years. We had our meeting 6 months ago in Singapore. We'll probably now have another meeting. He'd like to meet, I like to meet, but we've established a very good relationship. We're given no credit for it. You know, frankly, if this administration didn't take place, if another administration came in instead of this administration, namely Mike and myself and the group around this table, you'd be at war right now. You'd be having a nice big fat war in Asia, and it wouldn't be pleasant. And instead of that, we're getting along fine. I'm not in any rush. I don't have to rush. All I know is there's no rockets, there's no testing. In fact, I watched last night PBS. I haven't seen it in a while, PBS. And I just noticed, you know, I was in the White House all by myself for 6-7 days. It was very lonely. My family was down in Florida. They were all, I said, stay there and enjoy yourself. But I felt I should be here just in case people wanted to come and negotiate the border security. But I have to say that I was watching PBS and they really covered it accurately. They said that in Chairman Kim's speech, he really wants to get together. He wants to denuclearize, and a lot of good things are happening. They covered it very, very nicely. I was surprised based on everything I've heard about him. I'll have to start watching PBS much more. But they covered it very accurately, and I actually put a quote out last night about what they said, but that was very accurate. They really do want to do something. Now, does that mean it's going to be done? Who knows? Who knows? Deals are deals. You never know. But I tell you, we've established a very good relationship with North Korea. That was going to be a war. That could have been a World War III, to be honest with you, because that would have, a lot of people would have had to get involved in that all over Asia, and then it spreads beyond Asia. And instead, we have somebody that I really think wants to get onto economic development and making a lot of success and money, frankly, for his country, because North Korea has tremendous potential. And we'll help them out too. But North Korea has tremendous economic potential. And so I look forward to our meeting with Chairman Kim. We'll set that up. We'll be setting it up in the not too distant future. And with that, I'll ask Secretary Nielsen, we'll get back onto the border to say a few words. Please, Secretary.
Sure. Good afternoon, Mr. President. So I'm in San Diego reviewing our border security and immigration efforts. Is it working?
Yes.
Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay. And as you've described, sir, in fact, this is a humanitarian and security crisis. We're doing our best out here. I always want to take an opportunity to thank the great men and women of the Border Patrol and Customs and Border Protection, but the system itself is simply overwhelmed. This is my around 17th trip to the border in the last year, and I can tell you, unfortunately, the crisis is getting worse. Our immigration system is simply badly broken. So let me start by saying, from a DH perspective, Mr. President, now more than ever, we need the wall. Today I'm going to talk quickly about how bad the crisis has gotten, but to fix it, we need what our frontline operators are demanding, which is a barrier that will keep illegal aliens, drugs, criminals, terrorists, and other threats from entering our country. Walls work, as you said. It's not a political issue, it's an operational one. We've seen the successes of walls in El Paso, in Yuma, in San Diego, and in El Centro sector. Under your leadership, we're building the first new wall in over a decade, but we need more. We need new sections of wall at our top illegal entry points, something that Congress unfortunately prohibited us from doing last year in our appropriations. And we also need to continue to replace the old, outdated, and ineffective wall sections that you referenced. We need to replace them with wall that has been identified for operational purposes by the professional men and women of CDP, not by uninformed political restrictions that have been put on our appropriations. As you know, the southern border remains the principal entry point for both cocaine and methamphetamine entering the United States, and seizures in both narcotics are spiking. We've also seen, unfortunately, an increase in fentanyl coming across the southern border, which kills about 72,000 Americans every year. The southern border is also the primary entry point for criminals and gang members. Just last year, we apprehended more than 17,000 criminals and 1,000 gang members along the southern border. We are also concerned about potential terrorists as well. As you know, in 2018 alone, we apprehended 3,000 special interest aliens coming into our country along the southern border. These are aliens that have travel patterns or other characteristics of concern to the intelligence community. Mr. President, we need a strong border wall system to keep these threats and others out of the U.S., and I strongly support your continued efforts to obtain the needed resources from Congress. And if I could, let me just give you a little bit more about the crisis. We also need to address poorly written and outdated laws. Simply put, our laws allow illegal aliens into the country and allows them to stay. This must change. Here's the reality of the crisis we're facing. On average, as you said, we see about 2,000 people a day try to illegally enter our country at the southern border. We will never be able to send the majority of them back home unless and until Congress acts to close the loopholes these people are exploiting to stay in the country. To break it down, there are three categories of illegal aliens arriving at our borders: single adults, family units, and unaccompanied children. In the past, single adults have been the vast majority of illegal aliens. They're still the easiest for us to handle. We're able to detain and deport them quickly. Under your administration, Mr. President, we've dramatically ramped up prosecutions of these illegal border crossers with help from the Department of Justice, and we will continue to do so. But the demographics are changing, and the vast majority of the people that we see now are family units and unaccompanied children. They now make up about 2/3 of those arriving at our borders. Because of poorly written laws and activist court decisions, it's virtually impossible to send them home. We're only allowed, as you know, to hold families for 21 days. That's it. Then we have to let them go under the law. Most of them then disappear into the United States. What's worse, in 9 out of every 10 cases, immigration judges find that these families are not even eligible for asylum in the first place and should be deported. But by then, most of them have vanished and escaped the law. Smugglers and traffickers know this. In fact, they know our immigration laws much better than many members of Congress. They are using this as a fast pass to get illegal aliens into America. The result is an explosion in the number of families arriving at our borders and a massive spike in the number of fake families showing up. They know if they pretend they're together, they're likely to get in for good. And quickly, the third category is unaccompanied children. Because of outdated laws, we cannot send kids who show up alone back to their home countries and to their families. They have to be transferred to the Department of Health and Human Services, which places them with sponsors or relatives in America. The result is we see more and more of them every day. Parents are making the unconscionable decision to send children on long, dangerous, and sometimes deadly journeys to our country. We are busting at the seams. HHS is out of capacity, and under the law, CBP must transfer these kids to HHS. These loopholes serve as a giant magnet, which is now resulting in a humanitarian catastrophe. Our system was simply not built to handle this influx of families and children. The human toll is real and shocking. Women are being trafficked and raped. In fact, 1 out of 3 women report they are sexually assaulted on the journey to our borders. Kids are getting abused. They're getting sick, very sick. Many of them are being recycled and used by smugglers to get more people into the United States. And nearly 70% of illegal aliens report being victims of violence along the journey. 70% of those traveling north to our country. Our hearts break for families who have lost children and those who are affected by this violence. We're doing everything we can to ensure rapid medical care when needed. But the men and women at CBP and ICE are doing the best they can with what they have, but they don't have the facilities, the resources, or the legal authorities to keep up with this crisis. Only Congress can give them that. So, sir, the bottom line is, you know, and as you've repeatedly stated, we need Congress to fund and build the wall, give us the resources to deal with this crisis, terminate the Flores Agreement and grant DHS the authority to detain and remove illegal family unit aliens together, and modify the TVPRA so unaccompanied children can be returned home to their families. Right now, our Border Patrol and ICE agents are spending so much of their time dealing with the overflow that we're having to pull them off important national security cases, counter-drug operations, and more. We can't afford to do this any longer. I want to close by thanking the whole of your administration, the Department of Defense, Department of Justice, HHS, CDC, OMB, and others. We are all working together to address this security and humanitarian crisis. Mr. President, you have brought the rule of law back to our border. The men and women of DHS could not be prouder to be given the opportunity to do the jobs that Congress and the American people expect. But we need Congress to act. We cannot continue to do more with less and attempt to secure our country with our hands tied behind our back. Thank you for your leadership and your continued focus as we work with Congress to try to address this.
Thank you very much. It's a really fantastic presentation. I appreciate it. And you have been working very hard. You've been down there. Every time I call, you're at a different location along the border trying to straighten it out. If we had a wall or a barrier that was not penetrable, you wouldn't have people making that journey. And I think we could say that, Kirsten, if we had the wall, people wouldn't even bother making the journey, because the journey is tremendously dangerous, horribly dangerous. And children are getting sick. They're being accosted. You heard what the Secretary said about all of the crime and rape and everything else that takes place during that horrible journey. If they thought they couldn't get in, they wouldn't be making the journey. And again, we want people coming into our country. We need people to come into our country, but they have to do it through the system. They have to do it legally. And we want people coming that can help our country, where it can be based on merit and achievement, people that are going to help the companies that are coming into our country, which are so many. So I want to thank you, Secretary. It was a great presentation. Thank you very much. We really appreciate it. Acting Attorney General Matt Whitaker, please.
Sir, Mr. President, I will start by highlighting the fact that you stayed in Washington, D.C. over the holidays, giving up Christmas with your family, New Year's with your family, trying to bring an end to this shutdown and security to our southern border, while some members of Congress went on vacation and ignored the problem. You have demonstrated your dedication to delivering on this critical issue for our country and for the American people, but Congress has to act. They have to fund the wall. It is undeniable that a border wall improves the security of our southern border. A wall would reduce the flow of drugs, gangs like the violent MS-13, and criminals across our border, like you highlighted the brave officer who was a legal immigrant who was murdered by an illegal immigrant in California. It would reduce the incentives for individuals who attempt to enter illegally and restore integrity to our immigration system. Also, we need Congress, as Secretary Nielsen pointed out, to close the loopholes in our immigration laws. Not only do the loopholes in our laws frustrate DHS's ability to enforce our immigration laws, including the TVPRA and the judicial rulings that prevent DHS from detaining family units together, but these loopholes overwhelmingly contribute to a substantial number of meritless cases languishing in our immigration courts. During the shutdown and afterwards, the Department of Justice will continue to do everything within our power to support both DHS in its critical mission and address illegality at the border. Illegality will not go unchecked. We will continue to prosecute aliens for committing immigration-related crimes like illegal re-entry and illegal entry, which are at record levels for prosecution currently in your administration, and we will never let up. We will continue these efforts targeting transnational organized crime and criminal gangs like MS-13. The immigration courts are working. We have been completing cases at levels we haven't seen in years. We have over 400 immigration judges on board, and we are hiring more. And we are restoring the rule of law to our immigration court system. We will continue to do everything we can, and we are seeing tremendous progress, but the number of cases originating from the border are overwhelming the system. We will continue to defend our actions, your administration's actions, in federal court as well. This administration.
All right, folks. So we have footage from inside the venue where President Trump is going to be having his roundtable on immigration. So this is your 10-minute warning, folks. The president is on his way to the facility, and it should start very soon. I'm going to be putting it up on your screen in just a second. You're going to see a screen that says live stream starting soon. I'm just switching the camera over. So please stand by as we get everything ready to go for you folks. Thank you so much for choosing Golden State Times as your stream of choice. Again, we are putting live footage from the venue where President Trump is going to deliver his speech at a roundtable on immigration. Right now, the president is at the border in Texas, so make sure you guys stay tuned. So here we go, folks. I'm going to be putting it up on your screen. All right. Okay, so this is live footage, folks, from Texas. This is live, so please share the live stream on Facebook, on Twitter, on Gab, on Reddit, on any of those social media sites. And stay tuned because the president should be coming out very soon.
En route. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Stay right here until we know which side is going to start. There's a power circuit for 14.
You what? Chief.
No, we're not. We're not going anywhere. I need those forces. If we did, we have our own thing.
All right, folks, we have here some super chats. I want to give a quick thank you. Let's see here. Thank you so much to Gogurt. I hope I said that right. Thank you so much. And then we also have one from Gabby. Thank you so much, Gabby. Gogurt says, fix your bit rate, 4,000, blah, blah, blah. We can't do it. YouTube is the one that dictates the bit rate, bro. So sorry, we can't change that. That's already set by YouTube. But anyways, thank you so much for the comment. But yeah, folks, the president should be coming out very soon. Thank you so much for choosing Golden State Times as your stream of choice. Please share this live stream on Facebook, Twitter, Gab, Reddit, any of those social media sites. If you're part of the groups on Facebook or on Twitter or on Gab, you can share it on there too. That'll be amazing. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. The program will begin shortly.
I would like to give a quick thank you to Canon Gog. Thank you so much for your support through Super Chat.
Good time to do it.
I want to give a quick thank you to Based Mom. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. And it's an incredible honor to be here and to meet. We just said hello to Reggie, and I've seen so much with Reggie and his incredible brother and family. And we're with you. You know that, right? You know that. And we're here to make a tour in a little while of the border. And we have fantastic people with us, including our great senators from the state of Texas. And thank you very much, John. And Ted, thank you very much for being here. And our Lieutenant Governor, who's been my friend for a long time, and I also hear your son is doing a very good job.
He's working hard every day.
I hear he's doing a good job. So I want to thank all of you for being here. And we're going to go around the table and say a few words. Attorney General, thank you very much for being here. Appreciate it. What a job you've done. Big victory you had recently, too.
We did.
It was a very important victory. The individual mandate, we're going to see if that holds up, because it should. That was the excuse they had. And now we'll see if it holds up, right? But I think you're going to be in great shape. I'm honored to be in McAllen, Texas, with the heroes of Border Patrol, and they are heroes. You know, you have so much. Border Patrol, ICE, and law enforcement generally. You take so much heat, you take so much abuse from people that don't know what they're talking about. I want to just say that you have a friend with this administration, and you have a friend with me.
Yes.
Nobody does a better job. Nobody does a better job. And I have to add that you have no idea how much you're loved by the public. Maybe not by the fake news, but you're loved by the public. Beyond belief. And that includes my friend Brandon. And Brandon, thank you very much for being so great. You've been getting the word out how important it is. Border security, the wall or the steel barrier. They can have any name they want, but we have to have it. And it's going to happen. But law enforcement and ICE and Border Patrol, incredible job you do. And the public loves you. The public, not like, they love you. And I just hope that none of you run for president, because you may be the one person that we have a problem with, because you are highly respected in our country and beyond our country. We know what you do with MS-13. We know what you do with the gangs. We know what you do with crime. And we also see what you do on the border. Boy, I'll tell you what, it's tough stuff. But it could be a lot easier for you, and you could be spread a lot differently if we had the walls, and we'll get it. We'll get it. I think we're winning the battle in a very big way. So I just want to thank you all in particular for being with us. Thank you very much, fellas. Thank you very much. Really incredible. I want to thank also Secretary Nielsen and Commissioner McAleenan for being with us. We made the trip down from Washington. And again, Senator John Cornyn has been an incredible champion of what we're doing, and a very popular man in Texas. And I think we're running in 2 years together, and that's very good for both of us, I hope. I think it is. I think it's my honor, John. I want to tell you, the people in Texas love you. And we have another great friend of mine, Ted Cruz, and he is a friend of mine, except for about 4 or 5 months in between. I was telling John that Ted and I were on the campaign, we liked each other so much, and I said, look, at some time that'll end. Right, Ted? But we actually would do joint appearances together, and the press would say, when's it going to end? I said, it'll happen. Ted would say, too, it'll happen. We didn't know it would be quite that violent. But then the friendship is at least equal to what it was. And I just want to congratulate you, because I was here. We had that arena with about 22,000. That was the Houston Arena. That was an incredible night, right? And we had, I think, 109,000 or 106,000 people wanting to come. They had thousands outside. And that was a few weeks before the election. I said, I think he's going to win. I think he's going to win nicely. And I want to just congratulate you. That was not easy.
Thank you.
And now he lost and he wants to run for president. And I said, I thought you had to win to run for president, right? But you did a great job, Ted. We appreciate it. Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton, who's led some incredible cases. Ken, thank you very much. And Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, who's been, again, a friend of mine for a long time. I also want to thank the governor. He's going on Fox tonight. And he sends his regards. And we're going to either see him later. He's coming into Washington. But the governor, who just had a great campaign also, he's been fantastic and a big believer in what we're doing. So say hello to him, and I'll speak to him later. Thanks also to Brandon Judd and the National Border Patrol Council. So Brandon, I've known him from the beginning. And almost before I announced, he was for my ideas and he was for us. He was for me. And I appreciate it. And I appreciated all your guys coming up last week. They had a big impact. We said to them, what do you want? Who knows better than them? He knows better than all of us put together. And that group was fantastic that we had in Washington just a few days ago. And they went on television, and anybody that listened wouldn't even have a doubt about it. So, Brandon, thank you, everybody. We appreciate it very much. Done a fantastic job. The Border Patrol's Rio Grande Valley sector. Who is from the sector? Do you have any specific guys here from, and ladies? Quite a few. Now, are you tougher than the rest? Are you just tougher than the rest? I don't know. Maybe. But I heard special.
Acting Chief,
Oh, there they are. How are you? Come on over here. Come here, man. Look at this. Come here. That's fantastic, and I've heard so much about all of you, and we're going to spend a little time in a little while together. I don't know if we're walking or flying, but either one is okay with me. We're going to see a lot. But thank you for being here. In a few moments, the American people will hear directly from our frontline border agents about the tremendous flood of illegal immigration, drug trafficking, human trafficking, a phenomena that has been going on for 1,000 years or more, and that you think was something that modern society wouldn't have. And hate to tell you that because of the internet, it's worse than ever before. Human trafficking, it's a horrible thing. And much of it it's a world problem, not a U.S. problem only. And they come across the border, and it's a bad thing. And they drive. They just go where there's no security, where you don't even know the difference between Mexico and the United States. There's no line of demarcation. They just go out, and where there's no fencing or walls of any kind, they just make a left into the United States. And they come in, and they have women tied up. They have tape over their mouths, electrical tape, usually blue tape, as they call it. It's powerful stuff, not good. And they have 3, 4, 5 of them in vans, or 3 of them in back seats of cars, and they just drive right in. They don't go through your points of entry. They go right through. And if we had a barrier of any kind, a powerful barrier, whether it's steel or concrete, if we had a barrier, they wouldn't be able to make that turn. And they wouldn't even bother trying because they can't go through the points with people. So we would stop that cold. We would stop it cold. And they can't fly in, obviously, for obvious reasons. So we'd stop human trafficking in this section of the world. I think would stop it 90, 95%, a tremendous percentage would stop. And you also have the criminal gangs coming in. They don't walk through the points of entry. They come where nobody's around. And you're talking about hundreds and hundreds of miles, 2,000 miles, but we need 500 miles of border. One of the things that has happened is, and I was explaining to the 2 senators and to Dan in the car, that one of the things that really is happening is, without saying it too loudly, and I told him, and Dan said, could you repeat that story? When I say Mexico's going to pay for the wall, that's what I said. Mexico's going to pay. I didn't say they're going to write me a check for $20 billion or $10 billion. Nobody's going to write a check. I said they're going to pay for the wall. And if Congress approves this incredible trade bill that we made with Mexico, and Canada, by the way, but with Mexico in this case, they're paying for the wall many, many times over. And Dan said, would you do me a favor, say that? And I do say it, but the press sort of refuses to acknowledge it. When I say Mexico is going to pay for the wall, that's what I mean. Mexico's paying for the wall. And I didn't mean, please write me a check. I mean, very simply, they're paying for it in the trade deal. And sometimes I'd say that. So hopefully people will start to understand. Now, if the deal doesn't get approved by Congress, which would be hard because it's so much better than NAFTA. NAFTA was a horrible trade deal, one of the worst ever made. It really hurt our country. But now we have the USMCA, and it's a great deal. And I think that you're going to see some tremendous improvement for the farmers and for the people of Texas. So law enforcement professionals at DHS, the men and women in this room, have told us what they need to secure our border. These are the people we went to. It's not only the wall or the barrier, it's the equipment for seizing the drugs. We have tremendous equipment today. It's expensive, but tremendous equipment that when you do drive through one of the ports of entry, we have equipment that will be able to detect the drugs. And it's the finest in the world, and we're getting it ready. It's part of what we're asking for. It's not only the wall. And we've taken their recommendation straight to Congress. But Congress, as you know, the Democrats are holding us up because they don't want it. They think it's good politically. I think it's a disaster for them politically. But I'm not doing it for politics. I'm doing it because it's right. I'm doing it because it's right. And before, when I left Washington, I said they can't have a problem with crime because the people that are coming in, the criminals, the gangs, the traffickers, the drugs, it's all crime. And the only way you're going to stop it is the way these people are strongly recommending that it be stopped, Brandon. So hopefully, I hear we're making a lot of progress. I even hear certain members of Congress, the Democrats, are saying we better get this thing going. This isn't working out too well for us because nobody's going to win the battle of strong borders and no crime as opposed to open borders and crime doesn't matter, because that's what they're saying, crime doesn't matter. We have people that have been so horribly hurt, families that have been so horribly hurt by people that just come in like it's like just come into the United States, do whatever they want. In many cases they leave and then they'll come back, or in many cases they stay. And we've done a very good job at the border considering we're not given the right laws. We have laws that are so bad. They're archaic and they're horrible, and we don't have the barrier. So our plan includes drug detection technology at our ports, more officers and agents, far more beds to house the influx of unlawful migrants, medical support, closing the disastrous loopholes that incentivize child smuggling, the single biggest victims of what is happening at our border, our children. They're being used by the coyotes. They're being sold left and right. People are grabbing them to get in because our laws are really lousy. And if you have a child with you, it's easier to get in. These people know it better than anybody, far better than the people in Washington. And I think the biggest victims are children and women. Women would be right there with the children. These are the victims. And it's women mostly in terms of the smuggling and what's going on with that. So we're going to take care of this problem. And to think anybody can even think about fighting it is ridiculous. So we're going to build a powerful steel barrier. They didn't want to use concrete. I said, okay, I'll use steel. It's stronger. It's also more expensive, by the way, but it's stronger. I'll use steel. So we'll call it a steel barrier. Now people should be happy. They said concrete. We don't want a concrete wall. I said, that's okay. We'll build a steel wall. I like it better if you want to know the truth, Ted. And we'll call it a barrier instead of a wall. And I'm okay with that, too. I don't care what you call it, but it's got to be there. Democrats have refused to listen to the border agents, and they say this is a manufactured crisis. That's their new soundbite. All over, I turn the television. You know, I call it the opposition party. It's called the fake news media. And what happens is every network has a manufactured crisis. This is every one of them. It's like they, send out to everybody, let's use this soundbite today. So it's but it's not. What is manufactured is the use of the word manufactured. It's manufactured by them. Every single of the negatives. But they're not winning because it's common sense. It's common sense. They say a wall is medieval. Well, so is a wheel. A wheel is older than a wall. And I looked, and every single car out there, even the really expensive ones that the Secret Service uses, and believe me, they are expensive. I said, do they all have wheels? Yes. Oh, I thought it was medieval. The wheel is older than the wall. You know that? And there are some things that work. You know what? A wheel works and a wall works. Nothing like a wall. The government shut down because Democrats will not fund border security, plain and simple. And again, more than just the walls. Their open borders agenda threatened all American families, including millions of legal immigrants throughout our nation. In the last 2 years alone, Our courageous ICE officers, many of whom are with us, arrested criminal aliens charged with or convicted of 100,000 assaults. This is in the last year. 30,000 sex crimes and 4,000 violent killings. We're deeply moved to have with us Reggie Singh, whose brother Ronald Singh, an incredible guy. I mean, I watched and I've rarely felt worse in watching news of our nation than watching your family and the love that you have for your brother. I could see that, Reggie, the way it came through. It came through loud and clear. And there are so many other people who have the same. Nobody covers them. You know, when they talk about how unfair, how this, how that, nobody talks about how unfair it is to the victims of these brutal killings. And by the way, over the years, there's thousands of them. I don't mean hundreds. I don't mean in the teens. I mean thousands of them. And these officers can all tell you about them. And I'd like to, if I could, because I watched a family right around Christmas time, and I watched them suffer, and I'd like to ask if Reggie, maybe you could say a few words about your incredible brother, the job he was doing. He was so beloved by the people in the department and beyond the department, and maybe you could say a few words about your brother, please.
So Ronald Singh, we originally from Fiji Islands. He always wanted to be in law enforcement. So legally, we migrated to America to fulfill his dream, to join the law enforcement. After English is our second language, he worked on that, got his education, applied for law enforcement agency, and he was asked to get his citizenship. He worked towards that, and he became a cop, K9, Corporal K9. And the way he was killed, what my family is going through right now, I do not want any other family, law enforcement person to go through that. Whatever it takes to minimize, put a stop to it, my family fully supports it. At 33 years old, Ronald Singh was cremated, and I had to pick up his remains. It breaks my heart. And no one should ever go through that. Looking at that 5-month-old baby, looking for his dad, no one should ever go through that on Christmas Day. That's all. That's it.
Thank you. So we're with you. You know that, right? That was a tough one, too. That was a tough one for a lot of people. Not only the family, for a lot of people in this country. That was a tough thing to watch. Also with us, Marie Vega, whose son, Border Patrol agent Javier Vega Jr., who is another person who was loved by so many in the department, on the Border Patrol. We had so many people talking. They're still talking so much about him. It happened in 2014. He was out fishing with his wife, his parents, and his kids. And Marie, I'd like to maybe say a little bit about your son, because he is so loved and respected still in this room. Please. Thank you. Thank you.
My name's Marie Vega. We have 2 sons, my husband Javier and I. Very proud of both of them Marines. Harvey, at a very young age, expressed a love for law enforcement. And like, you know, the parent that wants the child to grow up and be something and be a productive human, we supported him. And he showed interest in the police force. Numerous times he rode with the police officers around our town, surrounding towns. when he was in high school, he told us that he wanted to be a Marine. And of course, it's like, okay, you want to be a Marine, you're going to start this, you're going to follow through, and you're going to finish it. And that's what he did. He became a Marine. Upon leaving the United States Marine Corps, he went to college, became a biomed engineer, and almost immediately after graduating, he was offered a job at Christus Pond in Kingsville. While working at Christus Pond, because he was surrounded by agents and saw how they worked, and still with that, love for law enforcement in his heart, he came to me, came to my husband and said, Mom, Dad, I want to be a Border Patrol agent. And of course, again, okay, you want to be a Border Patrol agent, then you're going to be a Border Patrol agent. And he became an agent. I always worried about him, like I worry about our family now. I want them to go to work, be safe, come home to their family safely. And I always, every day, I was, scared that I would lose my son. Never in my wildest dream did I ever imagine my son dying at a family outing. It was supposed to be a peaceful, fun, fishing afternoon, and it didn't happen that way. It didn't happen that way because we had a criminal, illegal alien that killed him. He came thinking that he was entitled to one of the 2 vehicles that we had there. No family, like Mr. Singh says, should go through this. No one. No family should suffer the loss of a child. A parent should not have to bury their child. We need the wall, and when I say we need the wall, I don't mean just build a wall. There's other things that we need to do also. We need to enforce immigration laws.
Right.
We need tougher judges. We need the wall itself. Our Border Patrol agents need to have what they should have, the equipment, the materials they need to do their job.
Thank you very much. You're 100% right. Thank you. He's very proud of you right now. Thank you very much, Marie. What Marie said is right. More than just the wall. We have to give these incredible people the tools to work with. We're not doing that. Politicians in Washington are saying, oh, they don't know the first thing about, they've never been here. They don't know the first thing about what we're talking about. So we're going to hear from a couple of our landowners, a couple of the folks that live in the area and areas that we're discussing. I think I'd like to start off with our Texas leaders, and they are indeed leaders, and say a few words about what we're here for and what we support and what's going to happen, and we have no choice. And maybe we'll start with John Cornyn, Senator Cornyn. Say a few words, please.
Well, thank you, Mr. President, for being here.
Thank you.
And for hearing firsthand from not only the people who suffered at the hands of the crime that occurs as a result of people who don't come here to achieve their American dream, but people who come here to cause death and destruction and human misery. Before you, you see, maybe we'll have somebody go through some of the things that are in front of us, but I see here, for example, heroin and methamphetamine that's been seized. You see bulk cash, $362,000. When the drugs are sold in the United States, they have to get the cash back across the border to the cartels. And you see the sorts of weapons that are used by the drug cartels and others, and you can imagine the violence that goes along with that. And so when people like Ted and I hear our colleagues in Washington say that this is a manufactured crisis, we kind of wonder what planet they've been living on, because this is not just about economic migrants. This is about people who exploit the vulnerabilities in our border. This is about the 70,000 people who died of drug overdoses in America just last year. A substantial portion of it is from the heroin that comes from Mexico. 90% of the heroin that is used in the United States comes from Mexico. And as you point out, the human tragedy associated with human trafficking, sex slavery, modern day slavery, all of that's associated with our inability to control the way we need to control our southern border. So thank you for being here. Thank you for your concern, and I want to particularly thank Mr. Singh and Ms. Vega for their willingness to come and tell their story and their courage.
Thank you, John, very much. Senator Cruz?
Well, Mr. President, welcome back to Texas.
Thank you. Thank you.
Glad to welcome you to the Valley. One of the things you said a minute ago about the men and women here at Border Patrol and ICE is you referred to them as heroes. And that is exactly right. These are brave, courageous leaders. I've been out on midnight patrol with the agents here in the RGV sector. And they have a difficult job that they do each and every day. They risk their lives. All of us, Mr. Singh, our prayers are with your family, the tragedy you endured. Nobody should have to endure. Ms. Vega, we love you, and Mr. Vega is sitting back here as well. And this whole community loves the Vega family and has mourned their son's loss alongside them. Illegal immigration produces tragedies every day. Human smuggling, drug smuggling, children being abused, women being sexually abused, opioids that are destroying. Last year, 72,000 people lost their lives to drug overdoses, more than car accidents in this country. And much of those drugs are flooding across this southern border. And so I just want to commend you for standing up and fighting this fight. One thing there's not a lot of in Washington is backbone. And I want to commend you for helping infuse some more backbone in Washington. This is a fight the people of Texas and the American people want the borders secured. They want the federal government to have the backs of the men and women in this room that are risking their lives to keep us safe. And so thank you for highlighting this crisis. When we see politicians go on TV and say the border's secure and there is no crisis, they are ignoring reality. They're ignoring the lives that are jeopardized each and every day. So thank you for leading this fight.
Thank you very much, Jen. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. Dan, if you could say a few words also, I'd like to have somebody get up and give us, just for the media, a little definition of exactly what's in front of us, because it looks pretty brutal. This is not a manufactured deal, as you said. This is the real stuff. And this is nothing compared to what they have. This is actually nothing compared to what they have. So is somebody going to be able to explain this to us quickly? Yes. Good.
Carlos.
Good. Carlos, please, go ahead. Please. Thank you.
President, welcome
Thank
to
you.
South Texas.
Thank you, Carlos.
I am the port director for Hidalgo on San Luis Port of Entry.
Good.
Before here, you see some narcotics that have been seized by the men and women of CBP. As you can see right here in the two tables to my far right and left here, these are 117 kilograms of methamphetamine and 12 kilograms of heroin that were seized in a commercial conveyance that was making entry at the port of entry. Officers noticed some discrepancies. The conveyance was referred to X-ray technology, and it was during the exam they were able to identify anomalies within the conveyance. With the use of our canine detector dogs, we were able to seize this merchandise. Right here at this particular one, these are fire extinguishers. These fire extinguishers were intercepted at the port of Progreso, Texas. It was a male that was driving into the United States, and the two fire extinguishers were used in the importation of methamphetamine and heroin, 100 grams of heroin and the 8 keys of methamphetamine as well. Also, we have some weapons that were seized at our ports of entry, also with the assistance of our federal partners and state partners as well. So we have 3 Colt handguns. They're gold-plated, encrusted with diamonds. Those were seized at the Laredo port of entry. have an AR-15 that was seized with assistance of our state and local partners with the task force officers. You have an AK-47 that was seized by the officers at the Hidalgo Port of Entry going southbound. During a southbound inspection, there was nervous behavior that was displayed by the driver. Subsequently, the officers were able to find the AK-47 hidden in the back seat. You also have a 50 caliber rifle. During the inspection at Port of Entry, officers with the use of NII equipment or x-rays were able to detect a compartment. That compartment was found in the back seat of a vehicle. Subsequently, with the assistance of our Homeland Security investigative partners and Air Marine, there was a surveillance that was conducted on the vehicle, which went to a undisclosed location. From that location, a traffic stop was conducted, and the 50 caliber rifle was found, sir. Now, these 3 guns that you see, they're gold-plated handguns and with diamonds incrusted.
Okay, that says it
Thank you,
all.
sir.
This is just all recent. This is all very recent. They didn't have to go very far. This is all very recent. Okay?
Good morning, Mr. President, and welcome to the McAllen Station.
Thank you.
I am the patrol agent in charge here at the McAllen Station, so we're very pleased to have you here. $362,000. This is a multi-agency seizure. It actually was detected by a Weslaco Border Patrol Station K-9 handler. What ended up happening, there was a suspected currency smuggler who, due to a traffic stop, resulted in further investigation. He gave us consent into his house. K-9 came in, searched, and this was caught. This suspect was suspected also of marriage fraud. He was an overstay. He also had multi-thousands of dollars of financial transactions, all illicit activity. 362,000 of many.
Wow, that's something. And the dogs are incredible, aren't they, in terms of finding the drugs, but also they find money and drugs? They find drugs.
They also find people.
And they find people.
People that are hidden away.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible.
And when we get a chance, I have some other things I would like to call to
Sure,
your attention.
go ahead.
Yes,
Do that, sure.
absolutely. I'll start over here, sorry, sir, if you will. So, Falfurrias checkpoint, which is north of here, 2 suspects that were being smuggled in the trunk of a car. It just so happens after records checks were run, one of the subjects actually had an Interpol hit. He was actually wanted out of Spain for murder. Here, we've got pictures depicting some seizures of marijuana and firearms. It just so happens when this multi-agency task force, Border Patrol included, went to go execute a warrant, the suspects inside the house actually started trying to burn the marijuana and actually try to throw it throughout the yard. But we were able to successfully get in, seize the marijuana, and make the arrest as well as other seizures. This here, very sad. Your words resonate with me. It's very dangerous. We've got a vehicle that failed to yield to Border Patrol agents. This vehicle, eventually the driver lost control, impelled the vehicle onto a pipe gate. A juvenile died in that vehicle. 15 to 16 other subjects seriously injured, all illegal in the United States. Here you're seeing the inside of a horse trailer where smugglers endangered these folks that they were smuggling, again, at the Falfurrias checkpoint. Here, this is just a couple of miles from here, from where we're standing. This is a tunnel. This is the second tunnel that recently that we have located. This is an area that we actually have wall, and we actually have some technology and agents. That piece of area was really important to the criminal organization. We are doing such a great job utilizing the right resource in that particular area that they've become so frustrated they're using other tactics. They're actually digging tunnels. This is about 25 feet long, about 2 to 3 feet high. We were fortunate enough that when the station next to us, their boat patrol actually launched in our area, went down. They're very vigilant. They look for new landings. They look for anything that was different the day before, and they were actually able to see. This was very well hidden, but they were so vigilant, they found this. There is no telling what all else was going to come through this if they were successful. Here, this vehicle was actually floated across the Rio Grande River with narcotics. Floated on a trailer with barrels. Narcotics in the bed of the truck, narcotics in the cab of the truck. This is technology that we have here in the McAllen area making use of. That group is actually in along the Rio Grande, but on the Mexican side, getting ready to cross the United States. That technology is so important, so our agents have time to go over there and deter that traffic. We've got large groups coming in. And sadly, this is a deceased subject, somebody who probably was trying to cross the Rio Grande, who didn't make it, and he died. He drowned.
Thank you. You want to go ahead?
Mr. President.
Right here, 2 juveniles from Mexico trying to smuggle over 1,000 pounds here again in the McAllen area. They actually rammed the vehicle. They rammed into a Border Patrol agent. That's an assault. They were trying to get away. 2 juveniles, over 1,000 pounds of marijuana. This is a stash house, Mr. President. The smugglers, they don't care. They're treating human beings as commodities. They put them in deplorable situations. Sometimes they're in these houses up to 8 days, sometimes even more. This is terrible. This is just, the American people need to understand, like you stated just now, we know better. We know what the cost is to families, to our communities, to the country. We're here to serve, and we're here to protect not just ourselves and everybody in the country, but even the people who are being taken advantage of.
It was a great presentation. Thank you. Thank you very much. Very impressive. Dan?
Mr. President, I wanted to share with you that our state troopers seized 94.5 pounds of fentanyl last year, which on the street breaks down to 21 million lethal doses. 21 million lethal doses. And we talk about our opioid crisis. To those of you who say this is a manufactured crisis, it's a manufactured cover-up by your opposition. We had 500,000 people apprehended crossing the border from San Diego to Brownsville last year, more than half in Texas, and most of those in this sector. Between Brownsville and Falcon Dam, we need the wall, we need the fencing. We have 54 miles. You're about to build 22 more miles, which leaves about 128 miles. On the other side of the border here, about 10 miles away, Mr. President, there's a city of 1 million people, Reynosa, without a police force. Every night, running gunfights in the streets between the Mexican Marines and the cartels, just 8 miles from here. And anyone who says we don't need a fence or a wall or a barrier or more law enforcement, they're deceiving the American people. So you're right, Mr. President, and we're with you.
And they say it's immoral. What's immoral is all the killing that's taking place by people just walking across.
They're deceiving the American people. That's
They
immoral.
are. They are. And they know better. And they all know it's an indefensible position. And even people that aren't into it like we are, where we're studying it and working and we want to end it and we can end it, everybody knows that what we're saying is right.
And the economic impact to the country. In Texas, we have 1 million students who aren't proficient or don't speak English, and these are good people that want to come here, but there's a tremendous cost to the taxpayer. That's about 1 out of every 5 students. The health care cost and the humanitarian cost. No one should have to die trying to come to America. And the Democrat opposition is creating that situation.
Yeah. Okay, well, I want to thank you, and I think a lot of people are getting it now because it's very simple. It's not complex. If we don't have a barrier, a very substantial barrier of some kind, you're never going to be able to solve this problem. And everybody gets it, whether you're educated in this world or not educated in this world. You don't have to be at all. They all get it. And that's why you see Congress now. Democrats in Congress are coming out and say, hey, we don't like this subject. There was just a big article. I won't give your competition the publicity, but there was a big article in a very important media outlet that just came out where a lot of the young Democrats just elected to office are breaking up and they're saying, hey, wait a minute, our position, meaning the Democrats' position of no barrier, no wall, is indefensible. And it's going to happen. It's going to happen more and more because it's common sense. Mark, would you say something, please? You've done a great job.
Well, Mr. President, I'd like to say that, as you well know, the Department of Defense is fully supporting the Department of Homeland Security and Customs and Border Patrol with thousands of service members from multiple components, and we continue to lead forward and willing to support in the mission as we look ahead.
And I called on you and I called on the Department of Defense to come down and help because we had caravans forming. We have another one forming, believe it or not, in Honduras, and we pay them tens of millions of dollars. They do nothing for us. They do nothing. And if you think that country is trying to stop, don't believe it, okay? And that goes for Guatemala, that goes for El Salvador. If they want to stop it, they can stop it. But they form, and then they come in through Mexico, they break in, and you saw what happened. They broke in because they didn't have the wall, and I think they're thinking about building a wall on their southern border now. But I want to thank the military. They've been incredible. They came up, and from day one they worked. Nobody's seen anybody work like that, and they put the essentially barbed wire, but it's called barbed wire times 10. And it was very effective, to put it mildly, very effective. Without that, it would have been a stampede right into our country. So I just want to thank the military. I know you're still working with us on it. And unfortunately, I have to tell you that they have another one forming, and we'll handle that as it happens. And we're working with Mexico. We appreciate that, but we're working with Mexico very much. Attorney General, please say a few words.
Sure. And thank you so much for coming to the border. So many people in Washington talk about the borders if they know what's going on and they don't come down here. So thank you. Also, thank you for your vision, your persistence, your willingness to stand up. I think like no other leader we've had, president or non-president, you've done more for border security to push this forward. And look, we have two stories, horrific stories of people losing their lives. And in Texas, unfortunately, you're not the only two families that have suffered. We keep track of statistics in Texas related to border security. Our state police has addressed hundreds of thousands of crimes, hundreds of homicides, and so we have hundreds of thousands of stories just like this that have affected real people and our families in Texas, and so thank you for addressing that. We also hear that the narrative is that the wall won't work. If you go to El Paso, we put up a barrier there, I think it was under the Bush administration. It's over 100 miles long. El Paso used to have one of the highest crime rates in America. After that fence went up and separated Juarez, which still has extremely high crime rate, the crime rates in El Paso are now some of the lowest in the country, so we know it works. So the narrative is incorrect, and we've tested it in Texas. And finally, I wanted to say something about your comments about human trafficking. I started a human trafficking unit my first year in office, and I did it largely because of the border. We have the second highest human trafficking rate in the country. Over 300,000 people are victims of that crime every year. That's the research. Houston is the worst city in America, and so we're addressing that, and border security will clearly have a positive impact on those horrible and horrific statistics that are affecting our women and our children. So thank you very much, Mr. President.
And thank you very much. And what you're saying is interesting because you'll have a wall or a barrier, and then you won't. And what they do is they walk up, can't get through, they come in, and they eventually find an opening, and it's the openings where they come in. And we don't want to have the openings. We're going to have gates where they come in legally, but other than that, we don't want to have openings. And you'll see the crime rate in this country go way down. And we're already doing very well in terms of crime rate, but it's not being helped by what's going on. We could make it a lot better. So I appreciate it very much. Thank you very much, Ken. Brandon?
Absolutely. Mr. President, I came here and this big gentleman right here, he said he didn't like that 50 cal pointing at his head. He played football.
That's right.
He played football at the University of Missouri. I told him it wouldn't even put a dent in him. So
That's right. He might be able to handle it.
He was the right person to put that in front of him. I appreciate the leadership that you've provided. I appreciate the access that you have given our Border Patrol agents to our leaders, like Secretary Nelson. Nobody has ever come down and spoken to our agents as much as Secretary Nelson has, and we appreciate that. We appreciate the leadership Commissioner McEleenan has provided and the access that you have allowed our agents with these individuals. I appreciate you having Senator Corner and Senator Cruz here with us today. These two individuals played such a huge role in getting Javier Vega's death declared as a line of duty death. Without their leadership, that wouldn't have happened, and I appreciate you allowing them to be here. From a personal experience as a Border Patrol agent, I can tell you what barriers do. I started my career in El Centro, California 21 years ago. We had very few barriers. We had illegal border crossings that were out of control. It was the busiest sector at that time. We put up physical barriers and illegal border crossings dropped exponentially. I then went to Naco, Arizona. We were the busiest station at that time, 2004, 2005. We were arresting one small station. We were arresting over 100,000 illegal aliens per year at that station. We built physical barriers. It dropped from 100,000 down to 20,000. That's how physical barriers work. They work, and we appreciate the leadership that you're providing in order to get us those things that we need, such as personnel, technology, and the infrastructure, which is barriers. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. And Brandon, it's been, you just sit here listening. It's like not a contest. There's no two sides or anything. And all they're doing is looking at 2020. And they figure they can't win, maybe they can do this, or they can come up with some other issue. I can tell you about another couple of issues they're using. And because we've had great achievement, but I won't consider myself to have that great achievement unless we can straighten out your border. And we're working on it. And your son and your brother will not have died in vain, I can tell you that. They will not have died in vain. It's a very important purpose to all of this. Very important. Monty, I agree, that's a very uncomfortable position. I don't know. I wouldn't want to be in that chair, but you're a tough guy. You can handle it. Please, say a few words.
Mr. President, first thing I want to say is thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to come down here and address the situation that we do live on a daily basis. Not only us as ranchers or anything, but all the law enforcement agencies. Senator Cruz hit it right on the head whenever he said, you know, you got a backbone, and that's exactly why we elected you and wanted you in the White House, and we appreciate you not giving up on that. I grew up in the Rio Grande Valley, born and raised down here. My family's third generation down here. 15, 20 years ago, we didn't have this kind of problem. We had a great flow of illegal immigrants coming across, but those people were harmless and they wanted to come over here for a better life and work. Unfortunately, it's not the same thing anymore. There's been many times where we'd be out on the ranch, or even at 3 o'clock in the morning, cold, drizzly, raining night, have a family come up and beat on my back door or on the front porch. I go out there, and it's a family in distress. You know, we feed them, we water them, and they're asking for help. We're passionate people, and that's what we do. So we call for help, we get them over there, we feed them, clothe them, whatever we had to do. Unfortunately, a few times we've also had a few young females come up that you could tell had been sexually assaulted. They were scared out of their mind. They get led around in the brush for 3 or 4 days and get disoriented on their direction and told by their coyotes that Houston's right there. This is where you want to go. These people paid $3,000 a piece to come across. It's everything that they could garnish up, you know, wage-wise, to pay these people. They walk them 10 miles across the border, walk them around in the brush, and disappear on them. They're lost. They're hopeless. They don't know what to do, so they give up and they say, "Can you call Border Patrol for me?" Border Patrol, my hat's off to you guys. I see how you work all the time. You're undermanned. Sheriff Department, everybody. We got a great sheriff in Hidalgo County, and proud to call him my friend as well. Anytime that we've had any instances, I lost my father 5 years ago, and when that happened, there was a lot of traffic going on. I didn't live at the ranch at the time, but I would have to go out there every night. So I was the constant bother to the sheriff, I'm sure, and he was there to help me all the time. These guys, they're the Border Patrol right now. Their hands are tied, and these immigrants, they know it. So they know that they get over here and they're going to get caught, but they're going to get let go. To me, that's something that I think that really needs to be addressed. And yes, I agree with the wall. There's a lot of farmers and landowners that I do know that are on the river, and they're a little upset because of the eminent domain. That brings up the question there as far as, you know, all the acreages they're losing with that wall. Maybe there's something that you can devise with those owners and say, hey, you know what? we don't want to drill right down through the middle of your property. Let's rearrange it and get a little closer to the river or something. And I think that would probably forego, and you'll see a lot more cooperation with that.
Okay, I agree with you. I think you're right, Monty.
Thank you, Mr. President.
And the laws are a big problem. You know, they call one catch and release. You catch them and you release them. You know, other countries, for the most part, you go into the country and they say, excuse me, these people, get out. You have to get out, sorry. And nobody tries to get in because they know they can't. With us, we take them through court proceedings. We have to hire hundreds of judges. How do you get hundreds of judges? Hundreds of judges. You go through a proceeding, they check you in, then they can't do the proceeding because there's 800,000 people now waiting. Think of it, 800,000 people. How ridiculous is this? If they set 1 foot on U.S. property, so to speak, they end up having to go to a trial. So they take the name and they say, you can go now, come back in 3 years, you have a trial. This is the United States law, by the way, and made worse by the Ninth Circuit. The Ninth Circuit is a disaster, made worse by the Ninth. If you go to the Ninth Circuit, if you're on the other side of what everybody in this room is all about, and frankly, what most of the people in the country are all about, it's almost like an automatic loss. It's like an automatic loss. They take a case to the Ninth Circuit that's nowhere near the Ninth Circuit, that has nothing to do with the Ninth Circuit. So we're bucking a bad system, and we're bucking a lot of things that are bad, and we're apprehending more people than ever apprehended before. But the laws are really against us, and we're doing well anyway, but we have to do much better, and we can do only better if we have a physical barrier. Because this way we don't have even with the bad laws, you have a physical barrier, they can't come into our country.
If I may, Mr. President, I married into a law enforcement family. Agent Jaime Zapata was the agent killed down in Mexico. You know, it was pretty hard going through that, and I kind of feel y'all's pain. Jaime and I were not all that close at first. We become really, really good friends after that. After that happened, I don't know how, but the killers, when they got went up to D.C., they were allowed to bring their entire family and put them up on the taxpayer's dollar, and in front of his parents, just paraded them around, and it was like a stab in the back, you know, for the government that he gave his life for, and it just.
When was that? How long ago?
Sir, that was right at last year, when they finally went to sentencing. So
convicted.
Somebody took the fall for it. I can't say that it was the correct person that pulled the trigger.
Yeah, that's bad stuff.
Yes, sir.
Pastor, please.
Well, thank you, Mr. President, first for coming to Texas
Thank
again
you.
and for the Rio Grande Valley. I especially want to thank you for calling this what it is, a humanitarian crisis. When you use that language, it really set bells to ringing, because that is what it is. People in my profession see the suffering, the human suffering brought by drugs, by the arms that are brought across, making our communities more violent, the trafficking of women and children especially, and boys and young males as well. And the truth that needs to be talked about, that is seldom talked about, is the amount of underreporting of the crime. When these things happen, in the shadows, people are not always eager to point out the crimes that are taking place, and it goes underreporting. But people in my profession, especially Spanish-speaking pastors in this sector, know firsthand the human suffering, the human toll that's taking place because of the onslaught, the sickness, the disease, the lack of sanitation that's going on because of the bunch up at the border and people trying to come in. So I just want to give a very heartfelt thanks, because I have had the privilege of visiting with you before. I know your heart of compassion, although some don't want to paint you as having a heart of compassion. I know you as a man that does have this heart of compassion that's genuine and authentic. And the fact that you called it what it is, it's a crisis, and a humanitarian crisis. And again, the pastors that I'm here representing today salute you and thank you for wanting to bring an end to untold suffering that's taking place on our southern border. Thank you, Mr.
Thank
President.
you, Pastor. Very nice. Good to see you again.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Commissioner?
Thank you, Mr. President. Obviously, you came to the right part of the border to really bring this border security and humanitarian crisis into focus. Number one, for illegal crossings. Number two, for hard narcotics, both between our ports of entry, as you saw from the briefing, and at the ports, and then the humanitarian cost. The families and children crossing here, over half the families that cross our border in the whole country cross here in South Texas. And so we have our men and women, our trained law enforcement officers, dealing with care for children and families in a very challenging environment. And so I just wanted to say I'm incredibly proud of the agents, officers, air and marine professionals that are serving down here, staying focused on the mission despite the challenging environment at this time. Very proud of the briefing from Melissa and Carlos, telling you with their heart and soul what they do every day to protect our country and our fellow citizens. And I just got to say the resources the administration is asking for from Congress are directly targeted at all three elements of this crisis. The border barrier, technology, agents and officers that we need to address the security threats, and we're building new barrier, as Lieutenant Governor noted, starting in February right here. Thank you. Also the technology, the ports of entry to stop the drugs, that's a critical element. And very importantly, you asked for humanitarian resources so we can provide different facilities, medical support to get our agents out of the child care business and help protect families that are crossing and in this violent cycle. It's all controlled by violent criminals in Mexico, primarily transnational criminal organizations, and we want to combat that with these resources. So thank you for the support.
Thank you, Commissioner.
And look forward to showing you more on the road.
Thank you. A little while. We'll be there in a little while. That's great. One of the things that Dan Patrick suggested, which I thought was very interesting, was give the state of Texas a relatively small amount of money. They'll build a wall themselves because they want to build it.
Right.
And I thought that was not the worst idea I've ever heard, although I still think I could do it cheaper than you. I still think I could do it. But I do like the idea. And we're going to look at a couple of ways of doing it where you guys get it up. You do things very well in Texas, and I like that idea. So we'll take a look. And Dan, could I ask you to say a few words, please?
Yes, Mr. President. I'm Dan Bible. I'm the Field Office Director with ICRO for the San Antonio Field Office. And with the inflow of the immigrants that are coming across in these unprecedented numbers, our officers also are coming down to the border to support that effort to deal with the women and children. But those are the same officers that we would be using in the community itself, looking for those public safety threats and criminal aliens, which are now reprogrammed to come down here to deal with the humanitarian crisis. Over this past year, I would say over half the time those officers on my task force and everything were brought back down to deal with these crises. And when we look at the family units and stuff that come across, in reality, we either just release them right out the door once we take them in, if they're not in a composition that can go into one of our family residential centers. But even if they get to one of our family residential centers, due to some of the legal decisions and stuff, we have 20 days to release them from there. So essentially they're being just released to the street as well. So pulling our officers away from doing criminal enforcement to just basically release family units, it's kind of deteriorating the system, and also reducing the secondary how would you put it, barrier for them to keep coming, right? I mean, once you get past, if all my agents are at the border doing this, they kind of get a free run in the communities, which make the communities less safe.
And you're right. And it's not just what's going on at the border. That's really almost a lesser problem. They get through the border, and then they filter out throughout the whole country. And you have MS-13 all over Long Island and all over other places. We're getting them out by the thousands. The ICE folks are doing incredibly in getting them out, and they are rough and tough. But I will tell you a little secret. ICE is a lot rougher and a lot tougher and a lot smarter. But still, it's a lot of people that they have to get out. But it's not the crime at the border, which has got its own problems. It's what happens once they get through the border and they're dispersed, or they disperse themselves throughout the country. And all of that crime is because of it. Yes, John?
Just before we end, I suspect we'll hear from Secretary Nielsen, who's doing a great job at DHS. But I just want to acknowledge all the local officials here, the mayors and the county judges and others who support these men and women who wear the green and blue uniforms.
Great.
And who basically end up having to try to manage this humanitarian crisis that's flood across the border because of the gaps in our law that you've already described. And, we are set up as a country to deal with legal immigration. We applaud legal immigration. But illegal immigration, particularly when it's floods over here, we're just not prepared for, especially with these large caravans, and it's created a humanitarian crisis that these men and women who are local elected officials have had to deal with. So I wonder if you wouldn't mind if we asked them to stand,
Please,
so we
please.
could recognize them and thank them for what they're doing.
That's great. Thank you very much. Thank you, Jen, very much. Secretary?
Well, sir, I think everyone here today said it so well. What I would tell you is it's not status quo. It is a crisis. It's a humanitarian crisis. It's clearly a security crisis. For those who would like to put their heads in the sand and pretend that it's quote-unquote manufactured, it's not only an insult and deeply disturbing to those who have lost loved ones, but it's an insult to our country, sir. This is a crisis, and what a crisis mandates is a decisive leader with a vision. That's what you have. You continue each day to make it very clear to Congress what the crisis is and what the men and women here today have told you is needed to address it, and they refuse to do it. So I hope today they're watching. I hope they take a cue from you. They decide to be leaders, and they do what this country needs and help us secure it.
Well, thank you, Secretary, and you're doing a great job, and you're working hard. I will tell you that. She's working hard. Every time I speak to her, she's in a different location, usually along the border. And Commissioner, you and the Secretary and everybody else, we appreciate it very much. And we're getting there. I think we're making a lot of progress. And I have to say that my sacred duty, most sacred duty as President, is to defend the people of our nation. That's whether it's from foreign nations or along a border. It's all defending our people and defending them properly and strongly and really rightly and justly. And that's what I'm doing. And it would be a lot easier for me not to do this. It would be a lot easier not to say anything and let this go on. This should have been taken care of 30 years ago, 20 years ago, 10 years ago. It should have been taken care of. I've seen all the speeches made by all the presidents and a lot of people that worked under the presidents. And you say, what happened? Nothing happened. They were going to build this wall in 2003 and 2006. They were going to build it 20 years ago. They were going to build it forever. And little sections got built. And I will say, we've done a lot of renovation. We have a lot of new wall going up where we took down wall because it was in such bad shape, and we put new wall up. We've done a lot of work, but we have work to do. So I hope that the Democrats get together and work on a problem that is truly, it's compassion, it's everything. It's also national security. Just like it's a foreign country, it's a foreign world. In many cases, it is a foreign country. We're under attack in a certain way. And we're certainly under attack by criminal gangs, by criminals themselves, by the human traffickers, and by drugs of all kinds. Much of it comes through the southern border. And if we can do a really great job, and we will, of putting up the barriers, putting up the walls, putting up the fences, putting up everything that we have planned, fixing what's good but isn't working so well anymore because it's decrepit, it's old, it's torn up from years of abuse and all of the things that happened, we will have done a great service. And, you know, somebody was saying that moving the embassy to Jerusalem, I got it done. Every president talked about it for many, many years, for decades. They talked about it, they campaigned on it. In every instance, they campaigned on it. They never got it done. Same thing here, same exact thing. I got that done, and we're going to get this done too. And this is really the defense of our country. And this is compassion, Pastor, very much so. It's compassion. It's compassion for our people. And we don't want to have situations like Reggie had in his family where he lost a brother who was special. Or like Marie had with your son, who was, I mean, they still talk about your son as being such a great young man. We don't want that. We don't want that. So we're working very hard. We're going to get it done. We are really on the right side of an issue. And I think actually, I know you don't see it yet, but I have feel about things. I think the other side is starting to get it. I may be wrong, but I really believe the other side is starting to understand what's going on. They're on the wrong side of a very important issue. We're going to have it taken care of. I want to thank everybody, and you're right, John, the mayors and all the representatives have done such a great job, and some of you I know. I'm sure I'll get to know the rest of you. But especially I want to thank Marie, and I want to thank Reggie for being here. And I want to thank all of the people, Border Patrol, Brandon, thank you very much, Border Patrol, ICE, and law enforcement for being here. We are with you 1,000%. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Great job. Thanks. I'll see you in the White House. Thank you. Yeah. Thanks, John. Okay, thank you, man.
Sir, would you accept the
Thank
gift?
you, man.
The men and women of the Border Patrol
I
appreciate your
appreciate it.
support.
Thank you, darling.
Put on their boots and badges every day despite the challenges and come out here.
Oh, we're gonna get it done.
Would you accept the
I
gift,
have
sir?
faith too.
Go ahead.
Thank you, sir.
I would like to present
get
you
going.
with my belt buckle
Oh, wow.
that I won. You can give it to your son, Barry.
He's bribing the president. Can you imagine? I want this to be out in the open, everybody.
I gave him a buckle. That's for your son, Barron.
I don't know if this is worth 10 cents or if it's worth $50,000, but anyway, well, that's very nice. Listen, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you. Would you want to hold that? Yes, sir. Thank you. That's very nice. Thank you, everybody. See you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President.
One last handshake, sir.
Yes, sir, you will.
Okay.
Thank you. Yes.
All right, folks, thank you very much for joining us and choosing us as your stream of choice. The president giving a good presentation with the men and women of the Border Patrol, showing exactly what's going on at the border, what's the type of stuff that they find on a daily basis, folks. All of these weapons, all of these drugs, all of people being smuggled, that happens every single day. It's not, it happens once a week or once a month. No, this is a every single day occurrence. And that's exactly what the president is talking about. So if you guys liked our coverage, if you guys liked our undisrupted coverage here at Golden State Times, then we encourage you to subscribe if you are new. Click the notification bell. Also, don't forget to visit our website, goldenstatetimes.com. Again, that's goldenstatetimes.com. And again, the president is right now at the border. He's going to be touring the border, the stretch in Texas where he is at right now. And we're going to be having coverage of that later on today. It will be as an upload instead of a live stream. So make sure you guys stay tuned for that. Again, if you guys are new to our channel, subscribe, click the notification bell, and stay tuned because we cover everything from the president to the State Department. We cover the Pentagon. We cover everything in between, breaking news, everything, folks, here at Golden State Times. Also, don't forget to click the thumbs up button. That helps us out a lot. And if you would like to get notified directly by us here at Golden State Times instead of YouTube, all you have to do is text America First to 555-888. Again, that's 555-888. All you have to do is send America First to that number, and then you'll get notified directly by me instead of YouTube. Thank you so much. If you'd like to help out Golden State Times, the link should be in the description below, or you can go to paypal.me/GST live. Again, that's paypal.me/GST GST Live. Thank you so much, everyone. Moderators, thank you so much for keeping the chat clean and enjoyable for everyone. You guys do an amazing job, and I'd like to thank you so much for all of your hard work. The president, again, is in Texas. We're going to have more coverage later on today as an upload on the channel, so make sure you guys stay tuned. Thank you so much, folks, and I'll see you soon. Peace. All right, folks, so we're about to shut the live stream down, but before we do that, we'd like to thank everyone for tuning in and choosing Golden State Times as your stream of choice. We're going to be uploading the speech just in case you guys missed it or missed any part of it. So please share that video on social media. All of our support that we've been getting is very greatly appreciated. Every single time that you guys see a Golden State Times upload or live stream, sharing it on social media is the best way to help out the channel. A lot of people, a lot of patriots have sent me messages telling me, you know what, I took away cable. I canceled my cable. I'm saving a lot of money. I'm tuning into Golden State Times instead of Fox News or CNN or MSNBC, where they cut the speeches short or they go to something else instead and they don't play stuff in its entirety. But we do it here at Golden State Times for you folks. We do it here because we know how much you guys want to be informed, that you guys don't want talking heads. You guys don't want anchors or people, bobbleheads talking about, oh, the president said this or the president said that. You guys want to see directly what the president is talking about. That's what we do here at Golden State Times. We show you the whole thing from beginning to end. No intermissions, no ads, no nothing in between. Once the president starts talking, it's completely uninterrupted here at Golden State Times until the president is done. And we have nobody telling you what he said because the patriots, the viewers, you guys are watching it for yourselves. Nobody's telling you how to think or what he said or what he didn't say. So that's what we do here at Golden State Times. We let everybody think for themselves, and then we talk about it when we do another live stream. So if you guys enjoyed that, then please subscribe to the channel, click the notification bell, and we have fun. So see you guys here next time. Peace.